could like lay back if you wanted to get your elbow out of my leg. Just a suggestion. Hello friend! I'm so happy you could make it to our little book club. So find your spot and let's talk about a book while we do our little crafts. Now, I am so excited for today's book, but I also have to say I am not good at surprises, and I feel like I'm showing that once again because this week's sewing project is already behind me. I'm still very, very, very excited about it. It's just not going to be a very big surprise. But then again, you could just skip the video and see it anyway. So, who are we fooling? Anyways, when I was a kid, I loved any kind of like princessy canopy bed. I still do. Nothing changed. It just started back then. I have wanted to have a canopy bed for as long as I can remember, and my husband is kind enough to let me do it even though he's not sure about it. So I made a canopy for this week's video. Not like a full canopy because there'd be nothing left of our bedroom. Our home wasn't big enough for that, but just this. I think it's called like a coronet canopy or something, but we'll go with canopy. And it just reminds me very much of sort of like any historical romance, but also sort of, I've never been to India. I've never been outside of Europe, even though I married a man from Canada. But I love that scene from A Little Princess when she's in that big old canopy bed in India. And also, I don't know, it just reminds me of historical romances, like when they're on like boats and stuff, and it's all like piratey and things. Not that pirates have anything to do with India. It just, look, I just find it romantic. And so, this book is also romantic. And I wanted a canopy. Moving on. This week's book is The Light of Stars, which was one of my most anticipated reads of this year. I did get a, ARC copy as a PDF, but I got it after the book was out because this book was kind of impossible to get in Europe, and I am so excited to have it because I've done a whole video about it, but I love historical romances that aren't set in Europe, at least partly, and I don't know, to me one seem just more adventurous, and I like adventure in my books, even though I'm a scaredy cat in real life. And I also always like a sort of travel situation in my books. Yeah, I just find them very interesting, and I always find that they stand out to me because they're just a little different from a lot of the others, which I like the others, but it's fun. Okay, so this book is about Kitty, who is living out in the countryside with her grandfather and aunt, and her brother's off in the city, but Kitty was actually born in England, and at the very start there's a pretty traumatic scene of Kitty being taken by her grandfather, with her brother, away from their mother at this palace in India, because her mother was actually from India. So Kitty is still sort of, she doesn't properly feel at home anywhere. Kitty has this great passion for astronomy. I always for a second have to think if it's astrology or astronomy, which is a little embarrassing because my brother is studying astrophysics. But I think it's astronomy. Okay, anyways. So Kitty has a great passion for astronomy, because her mother always used to tell her about the stars and the planets and all that, and so she sort of has that connection to her through that. And she also teaches at this girls' school every once in a while about astronomy, and she's just, that's sort of what she finds her passion in. However, there's something about this I really like about this book, but I'm gonna tell you later. Anyways, and then she finds out that actually her grandfather has arranged a marriage for her with this boy from India who is one of the heirs to the East India Company, who are some pretty evil guys. And so she has a lot of prejudices towards him, and she's very against that. And this is sort of their story. Oh no, I hear Frank, our mailman. I love Frank. He's absolutely delightful. But she is gonna be all excited.
Hello.
Hello. Action time. I think I know what this is, and I'm very excited about it. I'm excited every month when this comes. I don't like getting letters. They stress me out, except for when they're like my pen pals. But this is one of my favorite letters to get. There it is. My copy of the Vatican Magazine. I am a subscriber. I really am. I found it once at a train station and I loved the concept of it. Not really loving this cover, I've got to say. And yeah, I just really like it. It's very just like calm. I really like it, and my husband, for our wedding anniversary, gave me a subscription for the Vatican Magazine. So now I have it every month. My last month's copy is actually still next to my bed. Anyways, darling, how about we lay down? How about we plop our little bellies on the bed, huh? There we go. A couple of things that I really like about this book. I love the love story. Biggest part. So our love interest is Sebastian. He is the presumptive heir of the East India Company, but also he's under a lot of pressure because his grandfather tells him, you have to marry this girl or else you're not getting your inheritance. And Sebastian really wants to do right. He wants to be a good man because he has a lot of guilt about his past. He was a bit of a rake when he was younger, and he blames himself for his older brother's death, even though it wasn't like his fault, but he blames himself for it. And he also really doesn't want the company to go to his younger brother because his younger brother is quite corrupt. So he goes to England to essentially pick up Kitty and like just marry her. He's just like, okay, I'm gonna do this. He's not excited about it, but he's just doing it sort of out of a sense of duty. And I loved this man. I also really like Kitty. She is sweet, but I really, really like him because he's just such a stand-up guy. I will say he had not much of an apple battle to win me over because I was at the bookstore yesterday. So I finished this book only yesterday. I was like halfway through yesterday and then I read the whole night. And we were at the bookstore, me and my husband, and I picked up this book that looked like a fun romance. And then I looked at the front. I just wanted to read the first page because, before I buy a book, if I'm at the bookstore, I'm going to read the first page. And then there was a list of trigger warnings, which is fine. I always think they sort of give stuff away, but that's fine. I don't mind it. You can skip it if you want. However, then there was underneath the trigger warnings, there was like a little thing like for like the spicy content list. Go to the back. And I was like, all right, I do not mind if a romance book for adults has like a more spicy scene in it. I think this can be justified. I'm a married woman. Like, this is not, we're all adults. Like, that is fine with me. I don't really like reading them, I will say. I have only in my life encountered one of those scenes that I thought added something to the book. I think that's pretty representative of how I feel about them. I just think usually they don't really add anything. I like a closed door scene. I don't know what happened to fade to black scenes. I much prefer those. However, I'm fine with skipping things in books. If there's just a lot of books now that have those scenes, and if I have to skip them, whatever, it doesn't matter. I can do that because they, like I said, I feel like they rarely add anything. However, I think it's just getting a little much. It's just I'm genuinely having a hard time finding a book that doesn't have it, that's not YA. I actually recently saw a YA book that had them, which I find wildly inappropriate. But whatever you think about them, to me it's just getting a little much. And I was picking up this book and I really like the back of it, and then I go to the back of the explicit content, spicy content list, and for one, it had a list of chapters, which I don't really understand why that's there. I don't know if it's to skip or I don't know. I don't want to interpret, whatever. I'm not being very charitable about this because the list that followed was just pretty specific stuff and quite out there, and I was just I just want to read a charming book. It's just not charming to me. It's just I don't want to read this. And then, I don't know. I just don't like it. It's okay if you do. I'm not judging you. I'm gonna be honest, I'm judging some of those things. I'm gonna stop talking about this. Okay. Anyways, I came home from that and I was all disappointed that I couldn't find a single romance book in that bookstore that like wasn't either sort of like women's fiction. You know those things that like love them to bits, but that the like elderly church ladies at our church that we have there for the church coffee every week read, you know, like the family drama kind of things, like the family sagas. I'm not into those. I also don't want to read YA, but I would like something in between, but all the others are now like spicy, so I don't really like that. And yeah, anyways. This though, I came home, I read this, and it's charming as heck. I love it. It was so cute. It's so like, I love the guy. He's just really earnest. He's just really sweet. He's just a stand-up man. And he's not like, yeah, he's just really great. I love him. And he's still like very sort of, I don't know, he's just a great guy. And also, their relationship dynamic, once they get like together, was very similar in parts to how my husband and I are, I think. So that was just a little funny to read. But yeah, but it was really lovely. And I really love how charming it was. Also, another thing that I really, really like about this book is, and this is going to sound strange because it's going to sound like something negative, I like how much the astronomy is just window dressing. So every once in a while it comes up that like, you know, something about Kitty really liking astronomy. They go to a telescope, like that kind of thing, and like she reads a book about astronomy, but it's not like paragraphs. I don't really care about astronomy. I usually don't really care about the interests the book character has. And even if I do, even if, let's say, it's about sewing, it's a character who's really into sewing, I don't want to read about sewing. Just, I don't know. It's just never very interesting. I like when it's like the background is like, oh, I can tell you know something about this, but I don't actually want to know what you know about it. I just want to get the general feeling of this person knows something. Like the person writing this did some research, but I don't want to hear your research. And this book does a fantastic job. I feel like she probably knows about astronomy, but I don't. And I don't really want... I will watch a documentary if I do. Because I feel like this just feels info-dumpy very quickly, and I just don't want it. And yeah, this book just felt lovely. I also... One of my favorite side character romances I have ever read. It's going to be a spoiler. So maybe skip just a little bit. But Kitty's brother has the reputation of a rake because he's just, or not even a rake, just more of a gambler, really. He's sort of like neglecting his studies, seemingly, and it's just, he's not really doing too well. And Kitty also has this best friend, Frederica. Frederica is an absolute treasure. I love her. She's like really devout, and she is so sweet and so like earnest and just so kind. And those two fall in love, and also we find out, big spoiler now, we find out later that Kitty's brother was actually a spy trying to like find out about the corruption inside the East India Company. And so he's actually a stand-up guy, which is lovely for Frederica because she deserves a good man because she's great. And their love story is just beautiful. Spoiler over. I also just really love the settings of this. I do wish we would have spent some more time in India, but I really enjoyed being in London as well and in the countryside. And yeah, I think it was just a really well-written book, and I loved the romance. It was wonderful. And now let's look at my canopy, which you've been looking at this whole time, but I'll show it to you from further away. Thanks for sticking around. Even though that wasn't much of a surprise. I had a lovely time with you. Ta-da! I love it. I'm so cozy, which is very good because I have spent the last week inside because there's a heat wave, and so I'm sort of in my little bunker with all the blinds down. Anyways, no, look at it. I love it. I am so cozy. I love how yellow it is. I love yellow. It's my favorite color. And yeah, I'm just really excited. Okay. I am so glad that you could make it to our little book club, and I am so looking forward to next week's book club. I'm actually so excited. We are going to talk about my biggest sort of guilty pleasure book genre and my favorites in that genre, and I'm very excited about the dress as well. And yeah, I hope to see you then, and I hope you have the loveliest time until then, friend. Alright, bye bye.